Hi friends, welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. My name is Jake, and today we're taking a look at this knife. This is a fixed blade by Sencut Knives. This is the Toxodon, and Sencut is a budget brand. This knife is a stainless steel fixed blade, very thin in the handle. That's one thing that makes it a little bit unique, but it's a big fixed blade knife. What are we, look at my chart here, the blade length, not quite 4.5 inches. Well, the blade length's just over 4.5. The sharp edge length is just under 4.5 inches. So roughly a 4.5 inch knife. And if you're interested in this, stick around. We're going to do the entire review. I'll even do a little, I'll take that off the handle scales. I haven't done that yet during my testing, but I've done all the testing and everything. And I'll tell you what I think of this knife. Yeah, it's a little late to the party. Most people reviewed this, 6 months ago or so, but it is a 2025 knife, if I remember correctly. Let's get into this together. The Toxodon, a creature from, 10, 12,000 years ago that it went extinct roughly around then. All right, here it is. Now I got the Coyote or the light brown handle version. It also comes with black G10 handle scales, or you can get it with the green handle scales and a black finish. They don't say on their website what that black finish is. It looks like a titanium finish in the pictures and stuff. Sort of a tiny bit like it's been black washed a little bit, but this has got a stonewash finish. 9CR18 MOV, which is a decent stainless steel. It's sort of in the 440C kind of family and its performances and stuff. Roughly around 59 on the Rockwell hardness scale. It can go higher, can go lower, just like every steel. You've got a variety of hardnesses that it can be hardened to. But Sencut does theirs around 59, give or take a little bit, depending on the batch. But what we've got is a full tang knife and G10 handle scales screwed on. Those are T8 screws, I believe. I didn't even check yet, but let me double check. Here's my T8. Yeah, they're decent T8 screws. There's a little bit of freedom of movement in those screws, but we'll take that apart later on in the video. We've got a material here for the handle scales that's probably Kydex or something very similar to Kydex. And it's a pancake finish, 2 pieces, riveted together. And then we've got the Civivi clip, the Terzula designed clip, as you can see the names right there. So you can adjust, undo that screw just a little bit. Let's see if it'll focus over here. You just undo that flat screw a little bit, and then you can move where this bar is so that it can fit your belt width so that it's not free and loose and floating around. And you can do it, carry it this way, on your hip, or scout carry. I just don't like this kind of system. I don't prefer it. I don't have, an awesome reason for it. I'm not saying that it's inferior or anything. I just like to carry my knives lower down on my belt. So I like to have like a sort of a dangly type carry system instead of, this kind of thing, but that's okay. It's a decent sheath. There's a drain hole right there. When the knife's in there, of course, you can see, the knife right there. It's okay. It's a decent sheath. Nothing bad. The retention's pretty good. No, major click or anything, but, it's not loose and wobbly and stuff. It holds it quite well. Decent spot there to push off on to get the knife out. All right, so let's talk about the knife itself. We've got a drop point blade with a swedge along almost all of the spine up to, 3/4 of it or so, maybe a little bit more. And then a little bit of a rise, and there's a little ramp there for your thumb with some decent jimping on there. I like that jimping. It's not bad at all. Quite comfortable to use. And like I said, drop point, and then we've got lots of belly here and a short straight section right there. Good size sharpener's choil. I really like that sharpener's choil. It's done very well. The placement of it is perfect. It's well done. And the badging, pretty small, says Sencut on the flat up here. I like that. So this is sort of like a saber grind. Now the width of this grind, or the depth of it, increases as you get closer to the tip. And pretty good. The thickness behind the grind, it's around 20 thou. I'll give you the exact measurements later on in the video. And it's fairly consistent along the length. It's a tiny bit thicker that last, quarter inch or so towards the tip. This tip, it's not a very stabby kind of tip. Look at that. It's fairly broad, pretty quick, and the angle here between these two parts is fairly great, but I was able to get it into the sidewall of a tire, not just with one jab. I had to push it in there, and then I sort of worked it a little bit and got it in there. It's sharp enough, like it's not stupid sharp from the factory, but it's sharp enough, but it's not really designed for piercing kind of tasks. What else is it not designed for? Well, they show on their website a guy with a stick batoning on it. I don't understand that. Perhaps maybe they don't understand what batoning is. I generally don't recommend batoning with knives unless it's your last resort or your only resort. That's why hatchets exist, and saws, and axes and froes and all kinds of other stuff. But 9CR18 MOV isn't a super tough steel. It's pretty durable. It holds an edge quite well, but it's just not a steel for whacking on the spine on. And if you put this wedge on it, now you've got this thinner spot to hit, which means whatever you're using, like if you've got a baton, I don't have a piece of wood handy, but imagine this is a piece of wood. You're striking on there, it's going to break up your baton in a hurry. And if that's what they wanted it for, I don't think they should have put a swedge up there. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to talk more about the pros and cons of the blade a little bit later on, but for that, I'm not sure. I'm not fond of their advertising all that much. Let's get down to the handle here. Like I said, full tang all the way back. A G10 with a little bit of texture on it. And the texture is pretty good, but it's quite thin. Look at that. That is a very thin handle. And I'll give you the measurements later on, like I said, but it's not very thick. And so for longer term use, I did find my hand getting tired more quickly. For heavier duty, longer term use, I really would like a thicker set of G10 handle scales. And that's just the way it is. It really does need that. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute too. But first, I'll just finish this overview of the handle. The blade tang comes back out the back, and there's a bit of a lanyard that they include on. Now, it's a paracord without any of the paracord in it. Those are empty. They've been emptied. And there's 4 strands here. That means it's 2 pieces of paracord. For me, this is a gimmick. This specific style of paracord. This might be good if some people like paracord for pocket knives, but on a fixed blade knife, this doesn't make any sense to me. If I want paracord on a fixed blade knife, I want it so that I can wrap it around my arm properly, my hand properly, so that it actually gives me support while I'm using it. And a lot of people don't know how to use a lanyard with a fixed blade. I did a video about it a long time ago. I learned about it from another YouTuber, how he does it. We've got a big opening there. The other thing I don't like about that opening is the handle scales come back and create a sharp edge. If you want to put this back in, it's tricky. You're going to have to get a thin tool to help you push this through, because you're not going to be able to feed it through just with your fingers. Well, you might be able to, but I couldn't. It's just not a smooth transition in there, and I'll show that in more detail in just a second. The whole premise of the knife. Is this supposed to be a thin carry fixed blade? Is that why they made this thinner? Or were they trying to save money on G10? I don't know. The handle scales are inset just a little bit, so that saves a tiny bit of weight. The steel is chamfered all the way around, and so it's comfortable in hand in terms of that. It's not sharp. That's a bit bigger. And then the G10's rounded, so that's okay. But if it's supposed to be a thin carry, I would think they'd also want it to be a light carry. but it's not a light carry. Look at all this extra steel. Oh, I don't have a marker handy. I'll just point with this. This steel here, all of this is extra that wouldn't be necessary if you're trying to make a light knife. Does this aid in toughness and everything like that? Yes, it does, but it also adds weight. Now, it's over an eighth of an inch thick, and I'll do that measurement later on, but that's a lot of extra steel that isn't really necessary. But 4.5 inches, 4.5 inch knives, fixed blades are going to weigh some, but it doesn't have a light carry kind of feel, which I would think if I wanted a light carry feel, thin, I want light as well. Light and thin sort of go together in my opinion. If you want a big tough knife, I think you want a thicker handle. So it's not sure what it wants to be, in my opinion. Is it a good knife? Yeah, it cuts well. Like I said, it's fairly thin. It's strong and durable. It's slicey and it's cutty, but it's not super piercy, stabby. And it's kind of odd. What you might want a suggestion. I've reviewed quite a while back the Rake Hornet. It's a very similar style fixed blade knife, but it's a light carry knife. And it's a little bit thicker than this actually, but a knife like that I think makes more sense for a light carry knife. What is the price of this thing? Well, it's not too bad. In the United States, White Mountain Knives has this, and that's where I got mine, $52.96, but you can save 10% with code CCE for Canadian Cutting Edge. And then it's $47.66 US. Not bad. That's about $73 Canadian. And yes, I had mine shipped to Canada, but this was just before the tariff wars started happening. You can buy it in Canada. House of Knives has it for $83, $82.99, but Blades Canada has it for $79.99, so $80. So you save $3 at Blades Canada. And all those links down below will be provided to make it easy for you to find this. And you can always get it directly from Sencut. There, it's $63.30 US. Of course, that's their MSRP, and the other places sell it for just a little bit less than that. It's a decent knife. Let's take this handle off and take a look. And I think I might pause the video for this because I don't think you need to watch me taking the handle scales off. You've seen me do that in enough videos, and those are very tight. They got Loctite in them. I'm going to go get my drive grip, and because there's a bit of a play there, I'm going to use that in there. I don't want to strip out these screws. Drive grip, anti-camo fluid. I've got a video on it if you want to see that. Well, yeah, drive grip helped, but, and it's not the fault of drive grip that I didn't get this part. These are locked in place. I did eventually get this one to spin, but just the entire thing is spinning. I believe I've broken this screwdriver, and I've broken, this screwdriver. So this is a Wera that I've broken the tips off of. These are also Wera. I like these better. So I didn't, when I was stressing, pushing, torquing a lot with it, I decided I'd use this one. I believe I've broken a tooth on there, and this is a Weehaw, broken a tooth on there, and I just don't want to break any more, so I don't think I'm going to try to take it apart, at least not in this video. I might do a follow-up if you guys demand it. I'll try heating these up, and I'll use a soldering iron and try to put in a whole bunch of heat on these to help break apart the Loctite. I have suggested in the past sometimes that you can put, a handle in boiling hot water as long as you leave it in there long enough to bring everything in here up to at least boiling hot temperature. So it's around 100 Celsius. That sometimes loosens up Loctite, certain kinds of Loctite, thread locker, depending on the brand. And, the really good stuff, not so much, but I'm suspecting this is a Chinese budget brand of thread locker, which is where I've had some luck with in the past doing that boiling method. But I think I'm going to need to use the heat. But my soldering iron is broken. If you want to be able to take this apart, it's not going to be easy. and you might wreck some stuff doing it. I've given it the good old college try. Most people don't even have this stuff, but even if you do, you might break some screwdrivers otherwise. I'm going to see if I can take some close-up pictures of those, make sure that they're broken or not. But yeah, it's not the fault of this that this happened. This is just, these are on way too tight. It's either this broke or I've screwed up these holes, the heads in there. Here's a picture of what these holes look like, you know, before I've made them all dirty, because I did take a picture beforehand before I started reviewing. Let's just keep doing the review. I don't like that. Don't like that at all. I suspect there's some hollowed out sections in here because the balance point, there might not be any hollowed out sections. The balance point's right there. So there has to be weight back here. So maybe it's not hollowed out at all, but I wanted to show you this hole back here. And I can't get better pictures than what I've already shown you of how that is, but that's okay. Not a sharp point back here, it's sort of rounded. Is it a decent knife? Yeah, I think it's a decent knife. Oh, the measurements. Yeah, let's do all the measurements right now. The weight of the knife, 202 grams, 7.12 ounces. That includes, you know, that little bit of a lanyard. The sheath, 102 grams. That's 3.6 ounces. So together with the lanyard, 304 grams, 10.72 ounces. So it's not a light knife, which again, I don't know why they went so thin if they didn't want to do light as well. To me, those things go together. The sharpness from the factory on my tester, I've got about 235 best. So not as sharp as most knives are from the factory, but not bad. It's not bad at all. The length of the sharp edge from my finger to my index fingernail right there, 112.5 millimeters, which is 4.43 inches. From the tip to the handle, the blade length is 116.5 millimeters, 4.59 inches. The blade depth, the widest point is right back here, 42.2 millimeters, 1.74 inches. That helps add weight to this. The thickness of the blade stock, 3.99 millimeters, which is 0.157, so well over 1/8 of an inch. And the thickness behind the grind along the edge there, it's pretty consistent, except for the last tiny little bit, it gets a bit thicker. And it's about 0.5 millimeter, 19.5 thousandths of an inch thin, which is quite good. Remember, every time you sharpen it, it's going to be getting thicker behind there. It's going to make it a little harder to cut through stuff. But from the factory, that's not bad. And if they wanted a big, tough knife, yeah, this kind of, the way the bevel increases in thickness, you know, just halfway up the blade, that makes sense. It makes sense. The handle length, so from my thumbnail to my thumbnail, including, you know, the part that extends out past the G10, 127.2 millimeters, 5.01 inches. The grip area, it's about 10.5 centimeters, about 4.25 inches. You know, with everything being round, there's no exact measurement you can say there. The thickness of the handle scales, like I said, this is 10 millimeters. That's 0.394. So an extra, you know, half an inch, I think, is the thinnest I want to go on a big fixed blade like this, because I want it sturdy to fill my hand. Now, if your hands are smaller, you might still like it, but this measurement is pretty big. This is 31.6 millimeters, 1.25 inches. So, you know, maybe not super thick. I really wanted to take this apart. Actually, no, let me finish the last measurement. 254 millimeters, 10 inches for the entire length of this thing from tip to tail. I really did want to take this apart because I wanted to see how far these screws were threaded into the body. Of course, there's going to be like a pin in there. And I was going to see if I could do at least 3 turns, even though I added in some thickness. You know, I was thinking 1 millimeter on each side to make it from like 10 millimeters to make it at least 12 millimeters thick. And if I had enough thread for that, then I would suggest that. you could put something in there to make it thicker, a fix that you could easily do at home without it costing you much at all. But I can't determine that because I haven't been able to get these screws out, which is quite frustrating. So what are my overall feelings of this knife? They were much better going into this video than they are now. I was going to say it's a decent low-cost knife. If you're looking for a 4.5-inch fixed blade, full tang kind of knife, you know, it's decent. It's a budget knife, but for the price you pay, it's a decent knife. It's okay. But now I'm saying not so much, because I really think you have to consider this as permanently assembled, even though, you know, with screw heads, you know, again, well, not again, if you are going to screw a knife in, T8 is the very, Torx 8 is the very smallest I would ever suggest on, especially a fixed blade. I'd really want it to be quite a bit bigger. Like T15s would be best. Well, not best. That would be the minimum that I really would want. But even a T10 would be better. It's just too small, and it's too easy to break stuff when you're putting that much pressure to take it apart. I don't see the need for any thread locker in this. It should be able to hold just fine. The G10 is not solid. It's not rock solid. I've had a lot of knives that I've taken apart with G10. You just screw them back together and it holds just fine. Thread locker is major overkill on a fixed blade knife like this. I can understand when companies decide to do it on their folding knives, especially if they want to say, you know, you take it apart yourself, the warranty is no longer valid. But on a fixed blade knife, you know, that shouldn't affect, you know, they should be able to take this on and off. It doesn't affect the warranty performance of this. Maybe they would take away the warranty on the G10 or something if you did that, but still, I don't understand T8s with a very strong thread locker like that. That doesn't make sense to me. Although, you know, these screws are tough. They didn't strip out easily. So there you go. So yeah, I'd like it to be a little thicker. If I could change that one thing, that'd be good. Okay, I've cleaned up these holes, and this side's sort of okay. This side is where I've really chewed them up, especially this one. Here's some close-ups of that. And this screwdriver, I'll give you some close-ups of this. That's totally chewed up. It's useless now. You know, I can still put it into a fresh hole and it'll get a little bit of bite, and I could grind down the tip of it a tiny bit, and maybe I will take some of that steel off. But that tip is wrecked. Here's what, you know, a fairly well used T8 tip looks like on a decent brand. This is the Wera, and yeah, I chewed up the other one as well. So yeah, some people would say, you know, I didn't do it properly, I didn't use the screwdriver properly. Yeah, go ahead, comment whatever you want. I know my own life experience, and yeah, that's too bad. Could I have done better? Sure. I got arthritis in my hands. Maybe that contributed. Blah, blah, blah. All kinds of reasons. This should not happen, especially not when you're using something like drive grip and, you know, a good, strong T-handle. You know, I can put an awful lot of pressure down, you know, using a big, hard T-handle like that. I can really get in there with this and keep the pressure in and turn it. And yeah, it just had to give way because the thread locker in there is just too strong. If I do get another soldering iron stuff, I will follow up this video if I get those free. But that one is chewed up so much. Which one is it again? This one. This one's chewed up so much, I'm not sure if I will ever get this loose. What are your ideas? Have you got one? I know a lot of you probably have this already since it's been out for over half a year and you know, available for people to, you know, play with and use. I'd really like to hear the opinions of people who've had it in their hands and actually used it. That would be good to hear from. So thank you so much for watching this video. Thanks for bearing with me on this long review, as my reviews tend to be. Try to be quite in-depth. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.